afternoon and welcome to IBA News this Wednesday, the 26th of October. I'm Elon Aslan-Levy, joining you live from Jerusalem. An IDF soldier was lightly wounded this morning by gunfire coming from Lebanon while he was performing routine operations along the security fence near Metula. The army said shots were fired from a passing car across the northern border. Israeli troops returned fire, registering a hit, and the soldier was taken to the Ziv Medical Center in Sfat for treatment. There were no immediate reports of Lebanese injuries. The Lebanese military denies that the shooting originated on its end, calling the reports in the so-called Zionist media a complete lie. The IDF has launched an investigation into the circumstances of the exchange of fire, while the United Nations peacekeeping force UNIFIL said that it too was examining the incident. The UNESCO World Heritage Committee today passed yet another resolution dissociating Jerusalem from its Jewish heritage. Draft resolution Old City of Jerusalem and its Walls was passed by 10 votes in favour, 2 against and 8 abstentions in a secret ballot. It reaffirms the Old City status on a list of World Heritage Sites in danger, refers to the Temple Mount by its Arabic name only, and accuses Israel of various violations endangering the site. Invoking the late President Chaim Herzog, who as UN ambassador famously tore a copy of the 1975 Zionism is Racism resolution, Israel's UNESCO ambassador Carmel Shammah-Cohen said the resolution is not even worth the energy required to tear it to shreds, and literally threw it in a waste paper basket marked history on his desk. Today's development comes on the heels of a similar resolution by UNESCO's governing bodies earlier this month. And just as the UNESCO vote was being announced, the Israel Antiquities Authority revealed a First Temple-era papyrus featuring the oldest ever Hebrew reference to Jerusalem. IBA's resident archaeologist Ari O'Sullivan has the story.
The drama of the discovery is still not lost in the faces of these archaeologists, members of the unit that hunts down grave robbers and antiquity thieves. They nabbed a gang of Arabs from the Hebron area illegally digging in the Judean desert. In their possession was a piece of papyrus. When they brought it to the lab, they found it was from the mid-7th century BCE and had the word Yerushalma, Jerusalem, written on it.
It was amazing, actually. I held this piece, okay, this document, and I could just read it, okay? It was written in Hebrew script, ancient Hebrew script, from the First Temple period, and I can just read the letters, and I understood what I'm holding. I understood that it's really, really important, okay, this document.
The 2-line fragment is a consignment letter describing the shipment of 2 jars of wine to Jerusalem. For some reason, the letter didn't make it and was subsequently preserved in the dry Judean desert.
This is only a document, but it's a document that commemorates the writing, and it's authentic from the First Temple time.
The Israel Antiquities Authority plans to launch a survey of the entire Judean desert to make sure once and for all that everything has been found and to prevent the further theft of national heritage.
We are talking about a tremendous phenomenon, okay? People trying to steal our history, okay, our national history, and we are trying to stop that. In order to stop that, we need to be in the field all the time. So now what we're going to do in the next 5 years, we are going to survey all the Judean desert, all the valleys in the Judean desert. We want to reach all the caves in the Judean desert before the looters will do so in order to save our national heritage.
Eitan, as an archaeologist, do you think there are more treasures waiting for you to be found there?
Of course. You can see what we found now. And what's waiting for us, no one can know.
The papyrus is on display at the Schottenstein National Campus for the Archaeology of Israel, which was opened last week. Ari O'Sullivan for IBA News.
Back to the Temple Mount. The police have decided that the temporary ban on visits to the Temple Mount by Jewish and Arab MKs be lifted. The lawmakers were barred last year by the Prime Minister from visiting the site owing to concern over escalating tensions. According to a review submitted by Jerusalem District Police Chief Yoram Halevi, MKs should be allowed to visit the Temple Mount as long as they adhere to a number of conditions and restrictions. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is due to announce later today whether or not he will give the Knesset members the green light, in line with a police assessment, following a meeting with security officials. Indictments were delivered today at the Jerusalem Magistrates Court against 13 Jewish men, including 5 minors, for incitement to violence and terrorism in what has become commonly known as the Wedding of Hate. The men were filmed dancing at a wedding last year, waving pictures of the 3 members of the Dawabsha family who were killed in an arson attack in the Palestinian village of Duma, believed to be at the hands of Jewish arsonists. The suspects also waved knives and guns in the air, as well as mock firebombs hinting at the Duma attack. One of the men charged was the groom himself. He's seen in the footage carrying a friend on his shoulders as he waved a photograph of Palestinian toddler Adli Dawabsha with a knife stabbed into it. Angry questions are being raised over why a 15-year-old Bedouin boy shot dead yesterday on the Egyptian border was working on the border fence in the first place. The late teen, identified as Nimer Bassem Abu Ammar from Lakia in the Negev, was working for a subcontractor for the Defense Ministry at the site. According to witnesses, he stepped outside the fence but remained on Israeli soil when asked to make coffee for fellow laborers. An Egyptian soldier shouted at him to return, and a shot was fired. Nimer died of his injuries at the Soroka Medical Center. The boy's father accused the IDF of failing to respond to the fire, but the army said in response it held fire because the shooting had stopped immediately. Zionist Union MK Omer Bar-Lev called it outrageous that the Defense Ministry employs children and said he intended to propose an urgent debate in the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee when the Knesset winter session begins. The boy will be laid to rest once an autopsy is completed to help determine who killed him, which could be as early as tomorrow. Over a dozen foreign ambassadors and deputy ambassadors were given a special tour of the Gaza border area yesterday by former finance minister and Yesh Atid chairman Yair Lapid. Also leading the group were party colleague Ofer Shelach and former Central Command commander Avi Mizrahi. The group, including the ambassadors of the EU and Japan and the deputy US ambassador, received a first-hand look at the Erez crossing and heard briefings from local mayors and the IDF. They also toured a Hamas attack tunnel, the use of concrete in which Australian Ambassador Dave Sharma described as insidious.
There's one thing Hamas can do, and there will be no siege. One very simple thing. They just have to stop firing at our civilians, and there will be no siege. And as the defense minister has mentioned today, they can have a harbor, they can have an airport, clean water, electricity, an economy, jobs, everything any decent human wants to have, they can have if they will only hold to one very small, simple condition, which is stop trying to kill Jewish children just because they're Jewish.
The basic formula he expressed, disarmament for development, if you like, is one that we would support and like to see very much. I think after Sukitan 2 years ago, we all hoped that something like this would come about, that Hamas would, sign up to the Quartet conditions, recognise Israel, commit to peace agreements, and allow development to come in. But instead, 2 years later, we're looking down the barrel of another conflict because fundamentally nothing has changed, and that's sad, that's distressing.
The final day of witness evidence took place today at the military trial of Elor Azaria, facing manslaughter charges for shooting a neutralized Palestinian terrorist in Hebron back in March. Taking the stand, Hebron military security coordinator Jonathan Bleichberg described the scene of the initial attack as a catastrophe, saying that if IDF officers had handled the situation appropriately, the subsequent shooting would not have happened. He testified that even wounded terrorists remain dangerous and on many occasions pounce back to attack again, drawing on his own experience of shooting at a terrorist 5 or 10 times while he kept moving towards him. Bleichberg added that he initially reported Azaria's shooting as illegal, contradicting testimony to the contrary by the responsible lieutenant colonel. Also taking the stand today is IDF prosecution forensic pathologist Hadass Gibbs. 3 people, including a senior Israeli physician, have been arrested on suspicion of running a local organ trade network. The group is suspected of convincing financially strapped people to sell their kidneys for tens of thousands of shekels. The suspects then allegedly sold the kidneys to patients in need of transplant for sometimes double, triple, and even 5 times more, reaching fees of hundreds of thousands of shekels. The surgeries were conducted in Turkey under the guise of organ donations within families. Tragedy in Jaffa last night. A 37-year-old mother of 4 was stabbed to death in her apartment in front of her family members. Paramedics rushed to the scene and attempted to resuscitate the woman, who had suffered deep knife cuts to her neck and back, but pronounced her dead at the scene. Police suspect the victim's mentally ill brother was the culprit. He was arrested shortly after fleeing the scene and hiding nearby. Another family member was also arrested in connection after bloodstains were found on his shirt. In a separate incident shortly afterwards, a man in his 50s was stabbed and killed in Tirat HaKarmel near Haifa. Motives for both stabbings remain unclear at this stage, and police investigations are ongoing. A 15-year-old boy was killed last night after he was hit by a car while riding an electric bicycle in Petah Tikva. The teen had apparently been carrying another rider on his bike when he crossed through a red light on the city's Route 40. The fellow passenger, also 15, was critically injured and evacuated to hospital, where he is currently fighting for his life. After a Tel Aviv court threw out most of Deputy Knesset Speaker MK Oren Hassans' million-shekel defamation lawsuit against Channel 2's Amit Segal, the freshman Likud MK is lashing out, accusing Segal of losing without dignity. Yesterday, Hassans' lawyers sent Segal a letter threatening him with further legal action if he misleadingly suggests their client was involved in selling drugs or pimping. Segal admitted that the claim that Hassans sold as opposed to merely consumed hard drugs was a mistake on the Channel 2 website, for which it was ordered to pay 40,000 shekels in damages, but the court ruled it was not defamatory to accuse Hassans of pimping, because several sources said Hassans helped procure call girls for clients when he ran a casino in Borgas. Now, 2 Meretz lawmakers are calling on the Attorney General to remove Hassans' parliamentary immunity in light of suspicions he committed criminal offences that bear moral turpitude. Fellow Likud lawmaker Yehuda Glick called Hassans a friend, but said the acts attributed to him do not befit a public figure, and said that if he is indeed guilty, he should suspend himself from the Knesset. The new public broadcasting corporation, Kan, will be ready to open on schedule on the 1st of January 2017. That's according to a letter by the new broadcaster's management to the government announcing its preparedness to start operations in line with the Knesset's 2014 reform, shutting the IBA in favour of the new body. The letter comes as Coalition Chairman MK David Bitan moves forward with plans for legislation to abort the new corporation before it even begins, despite its investment of some 140 million shekels in original productions, its development of new studios, and hiring of hundreds of workers already. The letter now places the ball in the hands of Prime Minister and Communications Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is believed to oppose the creation of the new corporation and has reportedly instructed the current Director General of the IBA to prepare to continue operations past the 1st of January deadline, when the IBA is scheduled to close. The new corporation will include services in a number of languages, but will not include an English-language televised newscast. A large-scale bus strike is set to take place in exactly 2 weeks if the issue of state subsidies for bus drivers in the Eged cooperative is not resolved. Histadrut Chairman Avi Nissenkorn announced today that the state is refusing to renew an agreement stipulating the payment of an estimated $250 million shekels in separate increments to bus drivers. Nissenkorn claimed this is a major blow to the salaries of Eged workers. The bus cooperative has called on the government to stop delaying the payments originally intended for its workers and to renew negotiations in a serious manner. A synagogue at Ben Gurion Airport was briefly used for Muslim prayer yesterday, thanks to a group of confused Turkish tourists who used talitot, Jewish prayer shawls, as prayer rugs. The mistake was discovered when Jews who asked for directions to the synagogue returned dumbfounded to ask whether they had been given directions to the mosque by mistake. According to NRG, the Muslim worshippers quickly apologized when they realized their error. Authorities at Ben Gurion Airport described the incident as stomach-turning, but a mistake in good faith, and say they would consider requiring worshippers to procure a key to the shul instead of leaving it open. The airport does not provide prayer rooms for religions other than Judaism. The local film industry is celebrating Cinema Day tomorrow, with a large variety of movies open to the public, all for the symbolic fare of 10 shekels a film. Some 40 cinemas across the country are taking part in the initiative, providing movie lovers an affordable opportunity to catch recently released movies from Israel and abroad. This is the 4th year in a row that the 10 shekel movie day is taking place. In finance, the stock exchange is down today and the shekel is putting in a mixed performance. And in weather, tomorrow should be mostly cloudy with an additional rise in temperatures. Expect scattered showers and possibly even flash floods in the east and south from the afternoon, however, with a chance of isolated thunderstorms. That's all for today. Laura Cornfield will be back tomorrow with the headlines. I'm Elon Aslan-Levy, and it's a good evening live from Jerusalem.